The sun was gone, and the ruins of the old war outpost lay in darkness. Jack moved carefully, his boots making soft sounds on the dusty ground. Beside him walked Lyra, the alien girl with sharp eyes and quick steps. They had come here to find energy cells, small but powerful items that could keep their ship running for months. The place had been abandoned for years, but it still felt dangerous. The walls were cracked, the air was heavy, and every sound echoed in strange ways. Jack carried a small flashlight, its beam cutting through the darkness. Lyra followed close, her tail flicking nervously behind her. She was used to danger. But this place felt different. There was something in the air, something watching them. Jack stopped suddenly and raised his hand. Lyra froze, her pointed ears twitching. They both listened, but the silence was complete. Only their own breathing filled the air. They moved again, passing broken doors and shattered equipment. On the floor lay old helmets, melted in strange shapes from past battles. The scent of burned metal still clung to the place. Jack reached a wide corridor with a strange pattern on the floor. He didn't notice it, but Lyra did. Her foot came down on a square panel. A sharp click echoed through the hall. Before she could move, the walls came alive. Thin, glowing wires shot out. Crisscrossing the space around her, they formed a deadly net, moving fast to trap her. Lyra's eyes widened in shock. The wires hummed with dangerous energy, and touching them meant instant burns. Jack didn't think. He didn't even speak. He ran forward and pushed her back with all his strength. The wires hit him instead. Wrapping around his arms, chest, and back, a burning smell filled the corridor. Jack gritted his teeth as pain exploded across his body. The plasma wires were hot enough to burn through armor, and Jack wore only a thin jacket. The heat cut into his skin, but he didn't let go. Lyra fell to the ground behind him, her heart racing. She saw smoke rising from Jack's clothes. He was shielding her with his body, taking every strike meant for her. Jack. She shouted, grabbing at the wires, but when her fingers touched them, a shock sent her stumbling back. She looked around desperately for something to cut them. Her claws were sharp, but the wires were stronger. Jack's knees buckled, his breaths coming fast. Still, he kept himself between her and the trap. Each second felt like an hour. The wires moved, trying to pull him toward the wall. Lyra spotted a broken metal rod on the floor. She grabbed it and swung hard. The rod hit one of the wires, sparks flying in all directions. The wire snapped with a sharp crack. Jack gasped, his body shaking from the sudden release of pressure. But the rest of the net still held him. Lyra hit another wire, then another. Her hands burned from the heat, but she didn't stop. Finally, the last wire broke and Jack collapsed forward. Lyra caught him before he hit the ground. His face was pale and sweat ran down his forehead. She could see the burns on his arms and chest, glowing faintly in the dim light. "Stay with me," she said, her voice trembling. Jack gave a weak smile. "Worth it," he whispered, his voice rough. They didn't have time to rest. A low humming sound came from the far end of the corridor. Lyra's ears turned toward it. She knew that sound. It was the patrol drones. The trap had triggered an alarm. Now they had only minutes before the enemy arrived. She put Jack's arm over her shoulders and started moving. Each step was hard, but she kept going. The corridor stretched ahead like a tunnel into darkness. The flashlight shook in her hand, the beam dancing over broken walls. Jack's breathing was heavy, and she could feel the heat from his burned skin. The humming sound grew louder, joined by the metallic clank of approaching machines. They turned a corner and saw a faint light ahead. The exit was close, but the shadows behind them were moving faster. The drones were almost there. Lyra tightened her grip on Jack. She could feel his weight pulling her down, but she refused to let go. If he had given his body to save her, then she would give her strength to save him. The light ahead grew brighter. Just a few more steps and they would be free. But deep down, she knew this was only the beginning of their trouble. The hum of the drones filled the corridor. Red lights flashed against the walls. And then, from the exit ahead, another shadow appeared. A tall figure stepped into the light, blocking their path. The shape was familiar. Lyra's heart stopped when she saw the face. It was someone from her past, someone she never wanted to meet again. The stranger smiled, his eyes cold, running away again. "Lyra," he said slowly. Jack tried to stand straighter, but his strength was gone. The man's gaze shifted to Jack. "And you must be the human who thinks he can protect her," he said. He took a step closer, his boots echoing in the silence behind them. The drones were only seconds away. They were trapped between two dangers, and time was running out. Lyra's grip on Jack tightened as the tall figure stepped closer. The narrow corridor seemed even smaller now. The humming of the patrol drones behind them grew louder, the red glow reflecting off the broken walls. The man blocking their way carried himself with the calm confidence of a predator. His dark armor, scratched but still strong, his eyes never leaving Lyra's face. She could feel her pulse racing. Jack tried to move in front of her, but his body was weak from the burns. His legs shook and his breathing was rough. Still, he placed himself between her and the man. Lyra's mind screamed at her to run, but there was nowhere to go. Behind them, the drone's metallic footsteps were getting faster. Ahead of them stood someone she had once trusted and then betrayed. "You cost me a lot." "Lyra," the man said, his voice deep and steady. "But I think I just got everything back." He reached to his side and drew a compact energy blade, the hum of its power filling the air. Jack's fists tightened even though his arms trembled. He knew he couldn't win a fight like this, not in his condition. But there was no way he would step aside. The first of the drones appeared behind them, floating smoothly into the corridor, its red sensor light locking onto their position. Another followed, and another. The man in armor didn't even glance at them, which told Lyra all she needed to know. They were his. He had called them here. Her breath caught as she realized this was no accident. The trap she had triggered was not just an old war defense. It had been reactivated by him. He had been waiting for her to come back. Jack's hand moved slowly to the small pistol at his belt. His arm shook from the effort. The man noticed and smirked. "You're not in any shape to use that, human," he said. "And even if you were, you'd still lose." Jack didn't answer. His eyes stayed locked on the man's chest, measuring the distance, his mind trying to work out if there was any chance at all. The drones spread out, blocking the way behind completely, their blasters charged and ready. The man stepped forward and pointed the tip of his energy blade toward Lyra. "She comes with me," he said, "and maybe I'll let you live." The words burned in Jack's ears. He had heard threats before, but there was something about the way this man spoke that made his blood boil. Lyra stepped beside Jack, her voice low but sharp. "Oh, you'll have to kill us both." The man's smile widened slightly. "If that's what it takes," he said. Jack felt the muscles in his back tense, despite the pain. He knew a fight was coming, and it would be fast and brutal. The drones began to move in, their metal frames making soft clicks as they adjusted. Aim without warning. Jack moved, his pistol snapping up and firing at the nearest drone. The shot hit its sensor, making it spin wildly and crash into the wall. In the same moment, the armored man lunged forward. Jack raised his other arm too, blocked the blade slicing through the fabric and biting into his skin. Pain shot through him, but he twisted his body, forcing the man to step back. Lyra grabbed a loose piece of broken wall and hurled it at the second drone. The heavy chunk smashed into its blaster arm, sending sparks flying. Jack staggered but fired again. Forcing the third drone to pull back, the man in armor advanced. Once more, his blade slashing in quick arcs, Jack barely dodged one strike, the heat from the blade singing the air near his face. The fight was chaos. Blaster fire from the damaged drones lit the corridor. The hum of the energy blade mixed with the roar of Jack's heartbeat. Lyra darted forward and raked her claws across the man's arm, leaving a deep scratch in his armor. He hissed in pain and swung at her. Jack used that moment to slam his shoulder into him, driving him against the wall. For a second, the path ahead was open. Lyra grabbed Jack's arm. "Now?" she shouted. They stumbled past the stunned man, the last drone firing wildly behind them. Sparks rained from the ceiling as they ran. Jack's vision blurred, each step a battle to stay conscious. Lyra pulled him faster, knowing if they stopped, for even a second, they'd never make it. The corridor opened into a large chamber lit by the pale glow of old machinery. Lyra spotted a half-collapsed stairwell leading upward. Without thinking, she dragged Jack toward it, the sound of footsteps and clanking metal was close behind. As they climbed, dust rained down from above, the old structure groaning under their weight. Jack's grip on her shoulder was weak, but he didn't let go. They reached the top and burst through a rusted door into another hallway. This one cooler, the air fresher. Somewhere ahead there had to be an exit, but the sound of pursuit never faded. Lyra glanced at Jack, his face pale, sweat soaking his hair. She felt a knot form in her chest. She didn't know how much longer he could last, and she didn't know if she had the strength to carry him, but she swore to herself she would try. No matter what was waiting ahead, the hallway seemed endless, each step echoing in the cold air. Jack's weight pressed heavily against Lyra's side, his body still shaking from the burns and the fight. The sound of their pursuers was softer now, but it hadn't stopped. Lyra's sharp ears caught the faint hum of machinery deeper ahead, a steady rhythm too precise to be part of the ruins. Her instincts screamed at her to turn back, but behind them was death. So forward was the only choice. The light from broken wall panels flickered weakly, casting shadows that shifted with every movement. Jack's breath came in short bursts, his grip on her shoulder loosening. "You need to leave me," he muttered, his voice rough. Lyra's jaw tightened. "Not a chance," she said, her pace quickening. They rounded a corner and froze. The corridor ended in a wide steel gate, its surface covered with alien markings. Old but still glowing faintly, Jack leaned against the wall, studying it through half-closed eyes. "It's powered," he said. "That means something is still alive on the other side." Lyra's claws traced the symbols, memories stirring in her mind. She knew this kind of gate was used to guard important places. A soft metallic click echoed from behind. Lyra spun and saw a small black sphere rolling toward them. Her heart jumped. She knew what it was, an adaptive stun mine. It locked onto movement and released a burst strong enough to knock out a creature twice her size. Jack's instincts kicked in. He pushed himself off the wall and stepped in front of her. Even in his condition, the sphere's lights blinked faster. Building toward activation, Lyra dropped to one knee. Pulling a small EMP spike from her belt, she flung it at the mine. The device sparked and stopped. The silence after was heavy. Jack stared at her. "Nice throw," he said with a weak grin, but she didn't smile, because the sound of footsteps had returned, louder now and closer. Her eyes darted back to the glowing gate. She pressed her palm against the center symbol. Nothing happened. She tried again. Harder still, nothing. Her frustration grew. Jack reached into his pocket and pulled out a small multi-tool. With shaky hands, he pried open a side panel of the gate. Sparks spilled out. "If I can bypass the lock, we might get in," he muttered, his fingers working slowly. The footsteps became voices. the words sharp and full of confidence. They were being hunted. Jack's hands moved faster, the multi-tool clinking against wires. Lyra turned to face the corridor, her claws ready. The first shadow appeared, then another. Armored shapes moving with deadly precision. She hissed low in her throat, a warning. Jack cut the final wire, and the gate shuddered. It began to slide open with a deep groan. The gap was small, just enough for them to slip through. Lyra pulled Jack inside. The space beyond was dark and cold. The gates started to close again, automatically. The hunters rushed forward, one of them reaching out. His hand almost grabbing Lyra's arm, she lashed out with her claws, forcing him back as the gates sealed with a heavy clang. The darkness inside was almost complete, their breathing loud in. The silence? Jack fumbled for the flashlight. Its beam revealed a long, narrow passage leading downward, walls lined with ancient metal plates. Lyra's heart pounded. This was no simple storage area. This was a hidden route, one that likely hadn't been used in decades. They moved slowly, their footsteps echoing. The further they went, the colder it became. Jack's voice was faint. Where does this lead? Lyra hesitated before answering. If I'm right. It leads to the core chambers of the old station. Her tone was uneasy. Jack caught it, and that's bad. She gave a small nod. Only people with something to hide ever used the core chambers. The tunnel opened into a vast underground space, metal walkways stretching above a deep pit of shadows. Old lights flickered high above. In the center stood a large cylindrical machine. Still humming faintly after all these years, Lyra froze, recognition flashing in her eyes. She knew what it was, a war relic, banned on most worlds, and dangerous even without power. Jack followed her gaze. What is it? She didn't answer immediately, her eyes scanning for movement. Something we shouldn't be near, she finally said. But if it still works, it might be our only way out. Jack's lips curled into a faint smile despite the pain. Then let's hope it still works, he said, though neither of them knew if using it would save them or destroy them. The low hum of the machine filled the vast chamber, the sound vibrating through the metal floor under their feet. Jack leaned on the railing, trying to catch his breath. His burns ached with every movement. Lyra stepped closer to the towering device, her claws tracing the surface, old dust clinging to her fingers. It was warm, too warm for something that had been abandoned for decades. She glanced at Jack, her voice low. It's active. His brow furrowed. And that means? She met his eyes. It means someone's been down here recently. The thought sent a shiver through both of them. Jack scanned the shadows, the walkways stretching into darkness on all sides. His instincts told him they weren't alone, eh? Sudden metallic clang echoed from somewhere above. The sound bounced off the walls. Impossible to place. Lyra's tail twitched, her ears turning toward the noise. Jack tightened his grip on the railing. They waited, the silence pressing against them. Then came another sounds, low, heavy footsteps moving along the upper level. Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. Not hunters. Jack frowned. Then what? Before she could answer, the machine let out a sharp burst of light. A thin blue beam shooting upward into the shadows. The footsteps stopped, and then something began to descend. A shape wrapped in cables and rusted armor, moving with unnatural jerks. It landed on the walkway with a hollow thud. The dim light revealed a tall humanoid figure, parts of its body clearly mechanical, its face hidden behind a cracked mask where its eyes should be. Two small red lenses glowed faintly. Lyra's breath caught. An old war sentinel. She muttered. These things were programmed to kill anything not marked as friendly. Jack's hand went to his pistol, though he knew it wouldn't do much against metal that thick. The sentinel's head turned toward them, the red glow of its lenses brightening. A voice crackled from deep within its chest. Not words, just a distorted mechanical growl. It stepped forward, the walkway shaking under its weight. Jack aimed. But Lyra grabbed his arm. No, shooting will only wake it fully. She hissed. The sentinel froze for a moment, then began scanning them with a sweeping beam of light. Jack's burns throbbed as he shifted his stance, ready to move if it attacked. Lyra's mind raced, searching for a way to fool the machines. Sensors, the blue beam from the device in the center flickered again, and the sentinel's head twitched sharply toward it, it seemed. Distracted, Lyra seized the moment, pulling Jack toward the side walkway. They moved quietly, their steps soft on the metal, but halfway across, the walkway groaned loudly. The sound echoed like a gunshot. The sentinel's head snapped toward them. The red glow flared bright, and in an instant it lunged forward, its speed shocking for something so heavy. Jack pushed Lyra ahead, the machine's arms slamming down where he had stood a second earlier, the impact shaking the walkway so. Hard dust rained from above. They ran, the machine's footsteps pounding behind them, each slam rattling the metal under their feet. Ahead, a narrow maintenance hatch came into view. Lyra threw it open and shoved Jack inside first. She followed, pulling the hatch closed, just as the sentinel's metal fingers scraped against it. The sound of grinding metal filled the cramped tunnel. They crawled through the dark space, the only light coming from the faint glow of Jack's flashlight bouncing in his grip. The air was stale and hot. Behind them, the sentinel's pounding faded slowly, but neither of them relaxed. The tunnel sloped downward, leading deeper into the station's hidden levels. Jack's voice broke the silence. "We're going the wrong way if we want to get out." Lyra didn't slow. "I know," she said. "But the only way out now is finding the control core and shutting everything down." Jack grimaced. "And if we can't?" She glanced back at him, her eyes hard in the dim light. "Then we die down here." The tunnel twisted sharply and opened into another chamber, smaller but filled with consoles still faintly glowing. In the center stood a tall vertical column of light. Jack stared at it. "That doesn't look like any control system I've seen." Lyra's voice dropped to a whisper. "Because it isn't." Her claws tapped the console, calling up strange alien symbols. "This is a gate to somewhere else." Jack's stomach tightened. "Another room." Lyra shook her head slowly. "Another world." The words hung in the stale air as the hum of the machine grew louder, as if it knew they were here. The column of light pulsed, slowly, sending a faint vibration through the floor. Jack stood close enough to feel the warmth against his burned skin. His instincts told him it wasn't safe, but the look in Lyra's eyes was different. She stared at it as if it was both a threat and a promise. Her claws hovered over the glowing console. "What happens if you turn it on?" Jack asked, his voice low. Lyra didn't answer right away, her gaze still fixed on the shifting light. "It's not about turning it on," she said, finally. "It's about letting it decide." Jack frowned. "Letting what decide?" She swallowed hard. "This gate doesn't just open. It chooses who's allowed through." The air in the room thickened, the hum deepening. Jack's skin prickled, as though unseen eyes were studying him. From somewhere far above came the faint sound of metal groaning. Then a heavy thud. Lyra's ears flicked toward it. She didn't need to explain. They both knew the sentinel was moving again, and it was searching for them. Jack's eyes swept the room for another exit, but saw only sealed panels. The light from the gate seemed to grow brighter, casting long shadows across the walls. "If this thing can take us out of here, why are we hesitating?" he asked. Lyra's voice was tight. "Because if it doesn't accept you, it tears you apart." The words hit him like a punch. The thuds above grew louder, closer. a faint vibration running through the ceiling. Jack stepped beside Lyra, looking at the alien symbols dancing across the console. Then how do we make sure it accepts us? She shook her head. There's no way to make sure. Her claws tapped the console, and the light in the column swirled violently. A deep, distant roar echoed down the tunnel they had come from. The sound metallic and full of hate. The Sentinel was almost here. Jack glanced at Lyra. We don't have time to think about it. She hesitated for a heartbeat, then grabbed his arm and pulled him toward the light. The closer they got, the stronger the vibration became. The beam flared, sending thin streams of energy toward them. Jack felt his burns sting sharply, as if the light was peeling away his skin. Lyra gritted her teeth and kept moving. The column's swirling pattern began to shift, almost forming shape size. Hands, faces, but never fully. The roar from behind grew louder, footsteps shaking the chamber now. A blast of dust fell from the ceiling as the hatch to the tunnel bent inward. Metal screeching under pressure. Jack knew they had seconds left. He looked at Lyra, her face tense but determined. Together, she said, her grip tightening on his hand. They stepped into the edge of the light. For a split second, Jack felt weightless, the world around him bending and stretching in every direction. The light wrapped around them like a living thing, probing, searching. Inside his head, he felt a voice, not speaking words, but pushing emotions, judgment, hesitation, and something else he couldn't name. Then came a blinding flash. The roar of the Sentinel cut off as if the air itself had been ripped away. The sensation of falling took over. His breath caught in his throat. Lyra's claws dug into his arm as the world collapsed into silence. And in the next instant, there was nothing but darkness and the slow sound of their own breathing. Jack's eyes opened slowly to dim, cold light. His body aching in ways he could barely understand. He was lying on rough metal beneath him. The air thick and stale. A low hum vibrating around the room. Lyra was beside him, her face pale but eyes sharp, scanning their strange new surroundings. He tried to sit up, but pain shot through his chest. The burns from before now felt distant compared to this. Where are we? Jack whispered, his voice weak. Lyra didn't answer right away. Instead, she reached out and touched a wall nearby. Strange symbols glowed faintly beneath her fingers. This place, she said carefully, is not any world I know. Jack swallowed hard. You mean? The gate didn't bring us home. Lyra shook her head slowly. No. Her voice low and tense. It brought us somewhere else. Somewhere worse, from the shadows. A soft clicking echoed, metal scraping against metal. Jack's eyes darted toward the noise. A large figure stepped forward, tall and covered in cracked armor. But different from the Sentinel before, this one moved smoothly, with purpose. Its glowing eyes fixed on them. Lyra hissed. It's a hunter from the enemy's elite guard. Jack struggled to his feet, every movement burning. But he stood firm beside her. Then we need a plan, he said, looking around for anything to use. Their backs to a wall, covered in strange wiring and blinking lights. The hunter didn't speak, but its gaze was clear: capture or kill. Lyra scanned the room, her mind racing. She spotted a narrow hatch just above their heads. That's our way out, she said. But we have to move fast. Jack nodded, gripping her hand. Pain forgotten for a moment in the surge of adrenaline. As they approached the hatch, the hunter lunged, a metallic arm shooting out like a whip. Jack barely dodged, stumbling forward. Lyra screamed and slashed with her claws. But the hunter caught her wrist, its grip iron tight. Jack kicked at its leg, the machine stumbling but not falling. With a sudden burst of strength, Lyra pulled free, and Jack grabbed a loose pipe from the floor, swinging it with all his might. The pipe connected with a sharp clang, hitting the hunter's helmet, sparks flying. The creature reeled back, giving them the opening they needed. They climbed through the hatch. The narrow passage, dark and cramped, crawling on their hands and knees. Behind them, the hunter roared in frustration, pounding on the metal grate that separated them. Jack's breaths came fast, pain a constant shadow, but he kept moving forward. The tunnel opened into a cavern lit by strange glowing crystals. The air was cleaner here, but the silence was eerie. Lyra reached out and touched a crystal, and a soft melody filled the space, calming but sad. Jack looked at her. "What is this place?" She shook her head. "I don't know," she whispered, "but I think it's alive." Suddenly, the crystals pulsed and the cavern walls shifted, revealing a hidden doorway. Jack and Lyra exchanged a glance, hope flaring in their tired eyes. Whatever awaited them beyond might be their last chance to survive. The hidden doorway slid open slowly, revealing a narrow path bathed in soft light. Jack steadied himself, every step a battle against the pain. But he refused to give up. Lyra moved beside him, alert and tense, her eyes scanning every shadow. The air smelled faintly of earth and rain, strange comfort after the cold metal and dust. They walked deeper into the tunnel, the walls narrowing until they reached a small chamber filled with ancient machines humming softly. In the center lay a small console, glowing with blue light. Lyra approached it cautiously, her fingers hovering over the controls, her heart pounding. Suddenly, alarms blared through the chamber, red lights flashing wildly, and the sound of heavy footsteps echoed behind them. The elite hunter had found them again. Jack reached out, grabbing Lyra's hand. "No time," he said. "We have to finish this now." With trembling hands, Lyra activated the console. A holographic map appeared, showing a path out of the ruins. A narrow escape route that led to a hidden shuttle bay. But it was guarded heavily by enemy forces. Jack looked at her, determination shining in his eyes. "We fight or die trying," he said. The chamber shook as the hunter burst through the doorway. Weapon raised, Jack grabbed a fallen metal rod, ready to defend. Lyra crouched beside him, claws bared. As the hunter charged, the fight was fierce but desperate, each move fueled by survival and hope. Jack struck first, the rod connecting with the hunter's armor, sparks flying. Lyra followed with a swift claw strike. The hunter staggered but fought back with brutal force. The battle raged on as the chamber's light flickered. Time running out. Suddenly, the door behind them opened. A group of human soldiers poured in, blasters aimed and firing. The hunter roared and retreated into the shadows. The chamber filled with relief and quiet. Jack sank to his knees, pain overwhelming. But victory theirs. Lyra smiled softly. "We made it," she whispered. Together, Jack nodded. Worth every pain, the promise between them stronger than ever. As they walked toward the shuttle bay, the ruins faded behind them, but the memory of sacrifice and courage stayed alive. Their journey far from over. But now they had hope and each other.